Welcome to Momma-Sota, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the beautiful mess of motherhood. I'm your host, Monica Eickman, and I'm here to keep it real. In a world that changes by the minute, parenting can often feel like an uphill battle. We all want what's best for our children, but what that best looks like varies for every one of us. Momma-Sota is your passport to the unfiltered, unapologetic world of momming. No perfectly edited snapshots or unattainable ideals here. We're here to share the ups and downs, the triumphs and tantrums, the mess and the beauty of being a mom. Join me as we explore the raw and authentic side of parenting. This is your safe space to vent, laugh, and learn as we navigate the unpredictable journey of raising strong, capable, and independent children for the future. Hey, Mama. Welcome to today's episode of Momma-Sota. It's me, your host, Monica Eickman. I am a stay-at-home mom to 3 spunky children. My oldest son, Malachi, is 7 and in 2nd grade. And I've got my 2 girls, 4.5 and nearly 2, home with me full-time. My husband and I have been together since high school, so there are many life experiences that people navigate solo in which we never do. Joining us today is special guest Ali Leigh. She is a mother to 1 and also entered into her relationship and marriage at an early age. With a more recent divorce, Ali is experiencing more solo adult decision-making we didn't have to navigate before. Welcome, Ali, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, being a single mom, owning a business, navigating the dating world, and being the sole decision maker again is a lot to juggle. So we're going to get into how you keep all those things up in the air. But before we do, just tell us all about you.
Man, that's such a loaded question. It's like, what's my elevator speech about who I am? Well, I am obviously a mother. I have 2 cats. I love to be immersed in nature as much as possible. I just bought an inflatable paddleboard earlier this summer, and I've been absolutely loving that and going down the lakes. I live along the St. Croix community, so a lot of boat life, river life, getting out in nature as much as possible. And then I also, earlier this year, started reading The Artist's Way. It's a book about like taking yourself on artist dates and really immersing yourself into the artist that we all are, even if we've never really identified with that identity. Have you read that book?
I haven't, but it's an interesting thing that you brought up because I spoke with and we did a podcast with an artist a couple weeks ago, and we talked about like we automatically think of art, like you said, as drawing or painting and that sort of thing, and that being an artist, like everyone is an artist, and that's the fun of artistry and artistic creativity. It's just like huge like.
Yeah, exactly. And these artist dates actually got kind of challenging after a while because I was like, I can only paint so many pictures, or I just wanted to stretch myself out of the box of what my artist dates were. And they really do encourage that throughout the book, where it's like, even if you're collecting leaves on a walk, like that is art, and really looking at art from a different lens. So yeah, that's been a large part of my year, just exploring that piece of me. And I am a photographer full time, so that used to be my artistic outlet, but now I've been a photographer for over a decade now, so it is my job. I love it, but I need more creative outlets for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, so that's about me. I've been getting into yoga and the wellness world a lot. I just got back from a wellness retreat with breath work, and my community is largely based around like the sauna and cold plunging community in Minneapolis. And loving that side of things, just getting back into my body post grief and moving into a new season.
Nice. So one thing I kind of mentioned, when we got started here is you're navigating a whole new world and new beginnings for yourself. You've been on this significant journey since the divorce and rebuilding. What are some of the hardest adjustments you've had to make, and how are you finding your footing again?
Reflecting on this just brings you back to, like, it's been a couple years now, so it's like, oh man, those early days, some tears may come up during this, but like right now, yeah, I found a sublease. That was the beginning of the separation, and the sublease happened to be in downtown St. Paul. So I don't know if you've been to Lower Town, but it's progressively maybe gotten worse over COVID. But Anyway, we lived on 3.5 acres in the out in the country, and I stepped foot to go tour this new apartment in Lower Town, and I had my 4-year-old daughter at the time with me, and it was just such a shaky time. I obviously probably could have transitioned into that new season and maybe a little more similar of an environment, but I remember standing on the streets of Lower Town like, wow, this is terrifying in a lot of ways. I'm like, can I actually do this? And like holding my 4-year-old's hand and like listening to the light rail, like so many different sensory things, you know?
So St. Paul and the country are as opposite as they could be.
Totally. That was my first decision. I think I made so drastically because I was like, I never had the chance to like live in the city. So yeah, I was like, we're gonna just go for it, explore this. And the sublease was too good to turn down, honestly. It was in a beautiful building, just in a kind of interesting area. But yeah, so finding my footing in those days, you're already questioning so much of your decision. Like there's a lot of guilt and shame around that. If you're on the decision making side of things, especially as a mother, you're like, yeah, it's loaded. It's a nuanced topic and a decision that I think a lot of women spend like years processing before they even make the actual decision, and men. But yeah, that was my grief. I mean, managing all that grief in the beginning and then the shakiness. But I thankfully had a lot of friends support. Like the first day that I moved into my new apartment, my friend showed up with like this pink couch that she had in her office, and they all bought Thai food, and we sat on my empty apartment floor with this pink couch, and I'll just never forget the support of people showing up in those times.
That's so nice. When we don't realize sometimes when we're in relationships, and not that it's a bad thing, but that we're never alone, and we're not having to make decisions by ourselves. There's always someone to bounce idea off of, or to make the decision for us, or to be there in all of those choices.
Yeah,
And
and
so go ahead.
I think what has been super valuable for me as a person who never had to make those decisions growing up and starting my adult life at 21 as a bride, like never had to live alone, never had to make my own decisions, buy my own car. I think it has been really valuable of me to have multiple friend groups that have different perspectives and allow myself the space to have these nuanced ideas and nuanced perspectives so that I could make my decisions based on like what truly resonates for me, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
So
I would just be stepping back into my old routines of asking everyone else what to do, which I definitely have done my fair share of throughout the divorce. But yeah,
asking for help is never a bad thing.
exactly.
But like you said, stepping back, so typical or normal kind of, teen progression, graduating at 18, maybe moving out for the first time, but even if you're moving out, usually it's like to a dorm or apartment at college, it's going through that for another 4 years, then maybe getting another place with a friend or maybe your own place. But like you said, you were getting married at 21. So what did that graduation teen 18, 19, 20 years of your life look like?
Well, I went to Iowa State. Throughout Iowa State, I pretty much always had this group of 5 girls that we all lived together. So it was like constant people in the house at all times around me, and never was alone. Had obviously a lot of wardrobes to choose from. So yeah, I was just surrounded by community in that time too. And then a large part of moving into, like, we moved from Iowa State to Minneapolis, and a lot of them stayed together and like still live together in the same neighborhoods and raise kids together. So it's been a lot of FOMO, like looking from Minnesota down to Iowa. But yeah. So we moved up to Minneapolis right after we got married. I actually got married 1 week after finals week, got my diploma or my degree, and started going full time into my business.
So yeah, like you said, I mean, you've never, owned your own home or done any of those decisions. You owned your home, but with with your partner. And so any of that, as far of, yeah, having to just, like, if you said, buy the car, pick the place, do any of that was all, at least in partnership, but offered that community.
Yeah, exactly. I actually had my ex, we still have a pretty good community base, and like I feel like we're always family. Like even one of our divorce lawyers said that in the middle of the courtroom. He was like, I admire how much respect and family community you two have together. So I actually had him like tour houses for me, which I kind of caught myself. I was like, okay, Ali, like we're stepping back into that. Like he makes decisions for you. Like we really need to do this on our own now. But yeah.
But I think there's a lot to be said for, like you said, one realizing, like, where those boundaries are, and when you want to do things and make your own choices, but also the beauty in having that mutual respect and being able then to co-parent together for your child, and not having that animosity and where your child is placed in the middle of things.
Yeah, exactly. We've done a really good, healthy job with that, I think, throughout our process. Obviously, we have our days where we have to like check ourselves when we're just arguing via text for no reason about things that aren't even related to her. Where I think that's such a common thing in divorce because the emotions are so high and you're trying to manage a lot of things, a lot of shame, a lot of emotions, a lot of grief, and we're both trying to find our own footing and trying to build our own lives separate of each other, but yeah, I've had to find myself, like, biting my tongue a lot of the times.
But okay, so for your daughter, how old is she now?
She's 7.
Okay. So when you guys are working together and through the health, with her, what are some of the co-parenting challenges you face in directly relation to her?
Well, the main one being, like, biting our tongues and not arguing in circles, but also we just share completely different political views at the time, and we've had to navigate like what it looks like for her to go to a same-sex wedding and things like that, like what our conversations are with her. So, yeah, that's just living in a nuanced world, I suppose, and parenting with that, which I'm sure people who are even married have to deal with too. But yeah, finding alignment with that.
Definitely. And that, like you said, married or divorced, I think in relationships or in parenting, there are definitely different things that, I mean, even just my son is in dance and my husband doesn't want my son in dance. And I'm like, like, it is what it is, it doesn't matter. Like, but I think there's just finding those, like you said, those different things throughout parenting. But also, I can see where in the separated world where it's easier than to like throw the other parent under the bus. And it sounds like you guys are finding that balance and that respect and that maturity to still hold the other in regard.
Yeah. And I think for me, I can't really control what he does. I can give insight, but for me, it's been a lot of coming back to my values. Like, okay, is this argument really worth battling? Like my values as a mother and what I want Lily to experience growing up and how I want to raise her. That's been really valuable for when I need to just be like, okay, I can step back and allow her to have that experience because he wants that for her. And yeah, obviously taking turns doing that, not completely letting him run the show as a parent, but
What's a situation, and maybe the wedding, but a situation where you guys have been on very opposite spectrums in terms of a decision that you want to make for your daughter, and how did you guys navigate that and come to a solution?
it's a hard question. The one that keeps coming to mind is just that wedding. It was a family wedding, so that was even more sticky, where it was like, I really don't think we could not show up to this, you know? But then the conversations that were had afterwards with her and what we both chose to talk to her about within that, he also wanted her to go to private school at one point, which I personally just didn't value spending my money on, which there's pros and cons to both. But yeah, personally, as a consumer and as a mother, like I really value the experience of being in the real world and, or not that private school isn't real world, but like experiencing head on what she'll face later on in life and allowing her that nuanced experience of living in that and learning in that environment.
So what would be kind of then the biggest takeaway or piece of advice you would give to other single parents that are navigating that co-parenting situation?
Going back to the values thing, really picking your battles from there. And then also standing up for yourself. It's a different world after divorce, but approaching that like with a spirit of respect and having the conversations, even if you have to have multiple conversations over and over and over. But yeah, putting respect at the forefront, even though the emotions are high and you may not get to a certain ground just because that is kind of the endless cycle that you were probably in your marriage, if that, but yeah.
And I think like you had said too before, realizing that you can only control the decisions made that you make. And so then realizing too, I mean, obviously within certain bounds and safety and everything like that, but what happens at his house is what happens at his house, and what happens at your house is what happens at your house. And you can't, you're not going to be able to control all of those situations.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big thing at the beginning. I had to find myself like nitpicking every little thing he was doing or being like, did you do this before bed with her or blah, blah, blah. But yeah, just allowing her once again to have those different experiences.
And like you said, I think, again, just that like self-awareness and even understanding that some of it is nitpicking and not going to be the end of the world. And even, I mean, like I said, in my married life, same thing. I'll be like, you let her have that glass of juice, or you're like, it is what it is. I lived on. He was parenting. She's alive. Like, I would just give her the cup of juice, but
yeah,
I've not with. Yeah, not with the bite, not with the headache. But the other big part of being married at a young age, that just shapes so much of your experience of even just who you are. So tell us more about rediscovering yourself and what you want for your life share, and then how that journey has impacted your parenting both pre-divorce and then post-divorce.
Yeah. Well, it took a lot of years of therapy and a lot of years of self-discovery. I have been on a journey for sure of kind of waking up to my life in a way. I was kind of on autopilot of allowing everyone else to make decisions for me and tell me what to believe. It was just safe for me. And honestly, it was just the childhood I had where I was the peacekeeper. I was do whatever everyone else is saying to do. And then this whole journey has been me stepping into my own confidence and my decisions. And it's been like one decision after another. And everyone just gets easier and easier. And I've figured out through those decisions, like what lights me up as Ali rather than like what is the logical decision here, or I come from a really religious background, and at first I was like, oh, I have to completely shut out my faith, and I did that for a year-ish, but now coming back into that I'm relearning like who Jesus is to me, and that's another just nuanced, loaded situation I've been dealing with. But yeah, it's just like one step at a time. Just like in the beginning days when I was trying to find my footing, you put one step at a time and you find that confidence, you find what your values are through all of it, and your community can show you a large piece of who you are as well. I found like the more I'm able to just be vulnerable and be who I am and not hide pieces of myself based on whatever room I'm in, those are the truest connections that I've found. And it's been really healing as I've been on this self-discovery journey.
I think it was, I mean, just a beautiful sentiment that you said is finding like what lights up Ali. I think in so much of our life, especially when we're in relationships. It's like you said, it's not just being submissive, but it's finding that common ground that sometimes you are not sacrificing or not standing up for yourself or just going with the flow and not necessarily even realizing that you're just going with the flow because it's the peace. Everybody's happy. You're just having a good time.
Yeah.
Until you step away from that, like you said, now you're having to make these decisions and you're like, well, how come, for instance, I never choose to go bowling? I used to do that all the time. Well, because that wasn't something that was really more good. You like being, hiking and getting outside.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been hobbies have been a big thing. I'm like, wait, what are my hobbies actually? Because I did find myself like doing everything that he wanted to do or other people wanted to do. And tapping back into that, like earlier when I was talking about the artist way, like really getting into my inner artist and trying new things. I've tried so many new things after divorce. You kind of go through this like, oh right, I have this clean slate. I'm just gonna like throw spaghetti at the wall and figure it out, which I ended up finding myself into the wellness community in the sauna world and cold plunge world, and I feel more alive than ever. And then also just traveling has been a huge part of it as well. Experiencing different cultures and different places and feeling like in my body, like what feels the truest to me.
I love that. And I start kind of every episode with having, the guest, like I did with you, like, tell me who you are. And even still, most of them, and even myself, when, people ask about me, it's the easy answers. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. This is where I live. But like you said, we're so much more than that. But those are the categories that we find ourselves, living in and day out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's been really cool to allow Lily to join me in that discovery process as well. I don't know if you felt this as a mom. You obviously get to feel your inner child come alive again because you're experiencing all these things and seeing the world through their lens. And usually the things that light us up the most are the things that like our inner child or our inner 7-year-old wasn't given the chance to do or hasn't done it in forever, like riding a horse or something.
Yeah, like you said, life's simple pleasures. We had the night to unite last night and pulled out the slip and slides and music and the kids are dancing and like you said, just seeing their laughter and their joy brought all the adults back to that same, just like fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding that play again.
So with your photography business then, where do you balance all of running your own business, parenting, being that full decision maker, and then you talked about too, navigating that dating world? Tell us more about the balance with all of that.
Yeah. So I decided I wasn't going to schedule work on the days that I have her just because it did cut back on. I went from 100% of the time having her to 50%. And so there was grief around that. But I've come to terms with it. Like, I am the sole parent here, focused on her 100% of the time, 50% of the time. Whereas, like, when you're 100%, you're like not, if you're not giving yourself the space from your kids, you're not fully living intentionally, if that makes sense. So having that space really allows me to be present with her when I do have her. So I personally don't schedule anything on my days with her. If I do have like a wedding come up, I have a babysitter once a week. But the beauty of just being self-employed is that I can be home with her, especially during the summers. She's doing like a half-day gymnastics class on my days right now. So yeah, and then a large part of my work life is networking. So I like to sprinkle in networking while I'm doing other things for my wellness, like going on walks or like later this week I have a meeting in a sauna and really infusing my lives together.
You have a meeting in a sauna?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us more about this.
I mean, why not? We could meet in a coffee shop, but we were like, we might as well sauna. So yeah.
Like a potential client or?
No, it's not a potential client. It's more so someone in the industry.
Okay. Well, fine nonetheless.
I guess I could bring my potential clients into it on it. No, with that, I've found more intentionality and boundaries around, like, I only do consults via Zoom at this point because I don't wanna be driving everywhere and spending more time, if that makes sense.
For sure. I find that it's just fascinating because it's like you said, so many of I think that's just you making your own decisions here. I think so much of life is, yeah, why do we meet at coffee shops? Because that's what everyone tells us to do, like, because everyone does that.
Yeah,
Why
exactly.
can't you meet at the sauna?
Yeah, and my favorite thing is walks on or when you're having a meeting. Like, everyone wants to try to get as many steps in as possible throughout the day.
Yeah, and I would imagine I love going on walks. That the nature is, I mean, most of the noise you're gonna get, coffee shops are much more, busy and in and out and people and voices and
Yeah.
distraction.
I even do it for my dating life. I love a good first walk, first date. I mean, there is connection to be had when you're staring face to face at each other at a coffee shop, but yeah, kinda takes the edge off a little bit when you're moving your body and getting your steps in as well.
Sure, and I think, I think that there is something to be said for that because even just with my children, like, when we go for a walk, we're talking the whole time, and what about, I don't know, it's just whatever comes up, whatever,
Mhm.
versus that more forced conversation. I mean, I'm not sitting at a coffee shop with my kids necessarily, but, like, even in the car after school, and it's just like that, the normal, "How was your day? What are you doing?" But just,
Mhm.
like, that more natural conversation and flow, I think, happens.
Yeah, and I think with my seven-year-old specifically, like, so many conversations come up within nature where she just gets sidetracked by, like, a albino squirrel or something, or
Mhm.
a red leaf in the middle of summer.
Fun, so that's my kids too. They're off catching a toad or
Yeah,
grabbing a snake, and I was like, I don't know, we were going for a walk, but we can meander this way.
yeah. I don't know if your kids are into this, but my daughter has so many fun facts for everything. She's like a walking encyclopedia about every butterfly or bird ever. She's like, "That is a male cardinal."
No, they definitely like to talk my ear off when it comes to nature
Yeah.
and all of the creatures. But so besides meeting in the sauna, the intersection of work and parenting and building your business, how has being a single mom influenced your approach to your role as a business owner?
Yeah, back to the boundaries this conversation around really being intentional with my schedule and setting the boundaries that are needed with myself and with others, where I'm not like scrolling through my phone or answering emails as I'm doing everything else with her. I really like to try to be as present as possible with her when I do have her. And then with that, really building my business from my values at the center rather than staying on the rat race, which I have done, I still do in current season or seasons, but I think every mom learns this. You really just have to like take the little bits of time that you have and make the most of them and put your values at the center, make decisions from that place.
I think that's definitely a valuable piece of information, like you said, for any mom, whether you're single, divorced, married, have your own business, working, is just remembering what that time is that you have with your children and what is important and what do you value and what are you spending your time on? Because I think sometimes, you know, even myself, I'll find myself, telling my kid to wait just a moment or give me a second. And then I'll think about it and I'm like, well, I'm scrolling on Facebook. Like, why do I need to tell them to wait for me to finish reading someone's comment? Like, it's just silly.
That's so real. The comment sections you get sucked into, it's like, "What in the world am I doing?"
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. As I told my child to wait.
Yeah. When my daughter started going to daycare when she was a toddler, I'm sure a lot of moms can relate to this. You have that chunk of time and you're like, "I just got a whole week's worth of work done in that, like, half of day of daycare." Based on, like, what I was doing, where I was trying to mom and trying to do this and trying to do everything and just multitask. But it's wild how much moms can get done in a chunk of time.
It is really, and it's like you said, it's setting those intentions and that focus.
Yeah. But also I have felt the opposite of this many days. It's like, how come I have not gotten anything done today?
So that's another piece I like to talk about with moms is just like the chaos of life and parenting, and then just the importance still of self-care. So how do you prioritize self-care amidst a busy schedule?
Well, with my friends too, and with anyone pretty much in my life, whether it's a business connection, potential romantic partner, friends, I like to sprinkle in as much as my wellness journey as possible just to make sure I'm getting that time in throughout my week. And then I also love to wake up early, and I have my chair in my corner, and we all have our own like favorite little corner of our house. But yeah, it comes with a lot of prayer and a lot of walks and getting into my body as much as possible, which has been the biggest learning for me. I feel like I have lived so much of my life outside of my body and trying to please everyone else. And that's been my biggest learning of how to make my decisions is like, how does it feel in my body? Or it just allows me to come back to center and figure out what Allie wants and what Allie needs. So, yeah.
Now, Lily's only 7, but with some of the sauna, the cold plunge, the nature, the prayer, the focus, yoga, meditation, how are you introducing some of those things to her, finding that balance and bringing her into that part of your world?
Yeah. Mother's Day, we actually went saunaing together. She loved it. There were other kids around. She didn't really spend any time in the sauna, but the place I go to is called Thermoculture on Nicollet in Minneapolis for any Minnesota listeners. But they have like green lawn space with bags and fires, and they have kid time pretty much any day of the week, I think. Don't quote me on that. Before 5 p.m. So she loves it. She keeps asking to go back, and she made a friend there. Yeah.
Nice. I think sometimes we find there's pieces of us, like you said, that we lose when we become a mom, or we don't find ways to incorporate our children into our own hobbies or things. So I think that's lovely that you're finding that balance.
Yeah. The other day, I was writing my intentions for the month, and she was sitting next to me in our chair that we love to sit in together. She kind of takes over my favorite corner some days. But she wrote down her intentions, and it was like, eat steak. And she just learned that you're supposed to drink half of your body weight in water. So she was like, eat steak and drink 30 ounces of water. So it was cute to see her intentions she was writing.
I think that's really fun. With the intentions, we also do, my kids have like daily, we go over like 3 things that they were thankful for from the day. And like you said, it's surprising sometimes that like in my head, I'll be like, we went on this, like grand outing to the Mall of America or something, like I would think that that's what they're going to say. And it's like something so small as like waving to my neighbor in the car. And
It's so real. My ex and I took Lily to Disney World for her birthday this year, and she was like, Great Wolf Lodge is way better than Disney World.
they're like, great,
Yeah.
way less expensive.
So glad we did that.
So what are some surprising or unexpected lessons you've learned along the way in your journey of motherhood?
Well, with my life in general, it didn't pan out the way I imagined. I don't think anyone really goes into marriage thinking it would end. But allowing my daughter to be who she is and be open to surprises and embrace each season for what it is. Like some seasons you're going to be really productive and really connected with your kids. Other seasons you're just not. So just finding acceptance for each season and what it pans out to be. It's probably not all going to work out exactly as you expect, but it's always for the best, I believe.
I think that's important for people to remember is we can plan out every, second, minute, hour of our lives from today to the next 5 years to 10 years. But being able to adapt and go with the flow and having a plan is great and that's valuable, but knowing when to pivot and being okay with that.
Exactly. I personally, when she was a baby, was woken up when she was a toddler, like, oh my gosh, this is not like the perfect little motherhood I imagined. You're standing in the middle of a grocery line, like with a screaming kid, but we all go through it. It's a roller coaster.
It is definitely a roller coaster. So looking ahead then, what are some of your goals for both your personal life, your professional endeavors, and then just your parenting journey as well?
Yeah, I want to continue infusing as much nature into my life and Lily's life as possible. I have a dream of opening a retreat center with art as the focus, like an art healing space for kids and single mothers and just anyone who would need that. So whatever that looks like in the future, I would love to get into real estate of some sort and find my partner, my second partner, build more of a family and continue to honestly live in life how I'm already living, just community focused, community based, and learning from my community, evolving and exploring things as I go through more of a self-discovery and spiritual journey, which I think will just be the rest of my life.
Thank you, Ali. I mean, you sound like you're in the right headspace and that you've got great vision and insight and that you're really finding yourself again. And I think that's so important, like you said, in any stage of life, any season of life, just remembering at our core who we are and what we want for ourselves.
Totally.
Well, then with that, like we always say to all of you mamas and listeners, until next time, keep doing your best. Thank you for joining me on this roller coaster of momming right here on Momma-Sota. I hope you enjoyed our candid conversation about all things parenting, where perfection is left at the door and real life takes center stage. Stay tuned for more heartfelt, unfiltered discussions in the next episode. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review Momma-Sota on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us. Until next time, this is Monica Eickman signing off. Keep rocking that mom life, and remember, you've got this.